Good evening and welcome to Daytona Beach, Florida, the Daytona International Speedway, the world center of speed here in Central Florida. I am Tony Stevens, your host, joined tonight by none other than Dan Lyon, Matt Thomas, and I think even our friend Tim Terry might catch a late flight into the airport on the backside of the racetrack to join us for the later half of tonight's Openspeedway 500. Every single year, this, of course, the annual event held by the folks over at Openspeedway.net. This is the 6th annual one, and Dan, we have got an absolute full field of cars here this evening.
Yes, we do, Tony. NASCAR 2003 style on the different modded tracks. We're actually running Daytona mod tonight with the Sprint Cup Series mod for the cars, and it's going to produce some great side-by-side 3 and maybe even 4 wide racing for these 200 laps around this 2.5-mile super speedway. Now, this track, just like the olden day tracks here, Tony, at Daytona, is bumpy, is moving around. The guys are going to have to be very, very careful when they get in their car and when they do the bump drafting here. A lot of different strategies are going to play out here tonight, looking at 4, possibly 5 pit stops to make it all the way if we go green. I have a funny feeling, though, that there might possibly be a big one in our near future.
At some point, more than likely, there will be at least 1, if not 2 or 3 major catastrophes. Mind you, they have a few extra rules here at Openspeedway.net in place to help prevent some of that from at least happening in the early stages of the race. Among them, no bump drafting within the first quarter of the race. That would be the first 50 laps. Just a matter of making laps. And Dan, this is a 200-lap, 500-mile event. It's going to take a while to get to the end of this one. But even so, you talked about it a second ago, this is Daytona, certainly one of the most challenging racetracks anywhere.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And you can see the drivers out on the track right now watching under happy hour. Got a couple minutes left here. These drivers trying to fine-tune their setups, practicing their pit stalls, trying to get in as quick as you can on that line as you see the drivers now diving down. Some doing it better than others, Tony, here, as that car right there. Look at that. Perfect pit stop. We're going to see if they can do that every time here. They got to get into single file to get their stops. Absolutely amazing track here at Daytona National Speedway. 2.5 miles, 33 degrees of banking, 8 degrees on 31, in the corners, and 18 in the tri-oval, and I believe, Tony, 8 degrees on the back straightaway. So coming out of turn 2, 3 degrees. Wow, as you can tell, my math is not good tonight. Anyway, when they come out of turn 2, Tony, that's going to be where the big thing is. It sweeps from that 31 degrees of banking down to almost the flat back straightaway, and there's a huge bump coming out of turn 2, also coming out of turn 4. So the drivers are going to have to be very, very careful when they come out of those corners. Weather is absolutely perfect. 60 degrees, no wind. Absolutely amazing here tonight at Daytona.
Certainly is, and of course, some of the things we're going to be looking for at the track. Not quite as pronounced and accurate as, say, the iRacing versions of the Speedway are, but nonetheless, it's still going to be a handful to end up making 500 miles. I want to thank those who make tonight's broadcast possible. Of course, Openspeedway.net. Check them out. They've been around for freaking ever. I think we've got about 9 different leagues happening over at Openspeedway.net. Check them out. Something I'm sure will be right for you. Rocket Acoustic Circus, the circus is coming to a town near you, the 5-piece band out of Oklahoma. Several different types of music and proud sponsors of tonight's number 27 Dodge. Check them out online at rocketacousticCircus.com. And onlineracing.com, well, guess what? It's now onlineracing.net. Go there, check them out. If you're still into 2003 and some of the other older NASCAR sims, OLR is the place for you. And, of course, those of us here at OLRTV.com. And, Dan, one really cool thing about OLR TV, and this is something I know that we're probably going to, not for trying to be salespeople, but we're going to push and push often, is the fact that we have DVDs available in every single one of our broadcasts.
That's right. Check out the DVDs. You can go to olrtv.com, click the DVD link, $12.99 throughout the night and throughout tomorrow, and we're going to put it in chat too so you guys can check it out as well. Watch it on full screen, flat screen, big screen. It's also down at the bottom of your chat screen that you're watching on right now, and it's absolutely fantastic. I have a couple of them from way back in the day, Tony, and I still do put it back in and watch it every now and then. Also, there's going to be a mobile stream up if you know anybody that's on a cell phone, smartphone that wants to watch it on their cell phone. You can check it out. That mobile stream will be up here in just a couple of minutes. The links will be down at the bottom and on the front page of olrtv.com. So, Tony, you can watch it all over the place.
That's a scary thought, Dan, because you know how I am on the go, left and right. Was at the race shop earlier today. Had to go to the day job a little earlier to get caught back up, and now I'm sitting at home doing a broadcast here on Whole Art TV. So that mobile stream certainly a pretty cool deal. If it's something maybe you want to see and you're out having to get groceries or whatever the case may be. But another thing too we want to touch on as well, Dan. These guys, we mentioned 9 different leagues at Openspeedway.net. There's only 7 days in a week, Dan. They've got pretty much something for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to check out, go to openspeedway.net, and down at the lower part of their website there, you can check out their league site. They got a Sunday Cup League. They have 2 leagues on Sunday, and the mobile stream is live now if you want to watch it on your cell phones, by the way. They have a Monday Nationwide League, IRL League on Monday as well. The Tuesday, that's the one that I would look forward to, is definitely the trucks. Love the trucks. Way back Wednesday, I believe that is the older version, the Aero 88 mod on Wednesday. TNT Cup. They don't list a date for that, but I believe that's on Thursday. And Friday, they run Nationwide again. And then the Super Speedway Series on Saturday. So about 6 days a week there, Tony.
6 days a week, and we are getting ready to line them up here on the pit lane, Dan. Tonight on the pole, the Reese Chevrolet of Kyle Young, the number 93 machine. To his outside, it is the 10 of Andrew Hardcastle.
Tim Williamson and Tom Sullivan round out row number 2.
Rolling off in the 5th spot is Jeff Stoddard, the 74 machine. To his outside, that is the number 6 machine of RK Wood. Or 5 machine, excuse me, of RK Wood.
Rolling off in the 7th spot, Jeremy Lucasa. That's a name for you right there. Watch for him to be strong tonight. And in the 57, Jim Lohr.
The 67 machine rolls off next. That's Don Stevenson. And to his outside, the 342 machine of Eric Sisk.
In row number 6, the number 33 of Steve Stripmeyer, and Guy Snyder the 4th in the 31 in the 12th spot.
As the command is given to fire the motors, Mike Dawson will line up next in the 13th spot. To his outside, the number 500 machine. That is none other than Dudley Smith.
Rolling off in the 15th spot, the number 6 of A. Carter, and to his outside in the 41 is Rod Lease.
Next up is Chad Goodstein starting 17th here this evening, and then on the outside of row number 9 is the 84 machine of MJ Davis.
Hewitt rows off in the 19th spot, the 130 car, and his outside the 116 of Joe Gibson.
Tim Walton rolls off 21st with Kent Conley taking up the 22nd starting spot.
Watch for these guys back here in the 23rd, 24th spot. D. Wright in the 218 car and the 388 of Brad Cox.
Kyle Short rolls off 25th with Brad Adams in 26th.
A. Blomdale in the 23, rolling off in the 27th spot, and Rick Speed in the 008 in the 28th spot.
And a number of other drivers not taking time, choosing to start from the tail of the field here this evening. Among them, Justin Melillo, Matt Durr, Ziegler, Becker, Kevin McAdams, Bob Reynolds, Burns, Sean Peck, and I believe 1 or 2 others. We'll do check and make sure they are, in fact, actually racing here once we go green. Pace car works its way into the banking of turn number 3, Dan, on the verge of 500 miles of racing here at Daytona.
Yeah, about ready to get underway here, Tony. 200 laps. It's going to be an absolutely awesome race. Young and Hardcastle on the front row. This should be entertaining. Remember, these drivers have to make some pit stops. Can't make it all the way on fuel. Tires, not really such a big deal here, but we're going to see how it plays out if these guys do decide to take tires or not. As the race winds on, pace car is about ready to make the hard left-hand turn, Tony.
Yes, he is. There he goes, Dan, off onto the pit lane. Slowly bringing them down is Kyle Young through the tri-oval. Waiting. There it is. Green flag in the air. The Openspeedway 500 is under green. The first of 200 laps of this 500-mile contest, Dan. And it's going to be a long way to work your way to lap number 200 from here.
That's right. Young looking to get out into the front there. They're still side by side, about 10 to 15 rows deep here, Tony. It's going to be an absolutely amazing race. Watching the 74 and the 27 right now. Sullivan trying to make his way up through the field.
And that's Jeff Stoddart there. That's actually scored as the 743 machine on your live ticker. If you look at him, that's the red and yellow car. Third one there in line as they work off of turn number 4, coming down to complete lap number 1. Right behind him there is the number 5 machine as well. That is Kaywood, as Sylvain pretty much has dropped down from where he started. He started up in the 4th spot, Dan, all the way back to 8th. Here goes the 743 machine of Jeff Stoddart looking at the top of the racetrack. Nothing there. That hole is going to close on him rather quickly.
Yeah, that bottom line, the place to be here earlier in this race, Tony, as they now start to break out, and these drivers now going back up to the outside, side by side. This track modded perfectly for 2 to 3 wide racing here, so there is no preferred group per se, but I still believe that yellow line is your friend, and that's where you need to stay.
And Williamson is going to take full advantage of that yellow line, Dan, through turns 3 and 4. Young slipped up off the bottom. Not sure if that was by design or not. Nonetheless, it's going to allow Williamson to be nearly in the front. Cross start finish. He will lead that lap, but not by a whole lot. Kaywood down the bottom of the speedway. He now is going to take a chance at the top spot as they work through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, look at that bottom lane moving right now, but behind them, that high line is coming as they are double file now, Tony. That high line's starting to make a push here as the battle for the lead rages on.
Seems like, Dan, they're almost trying just to swap the lead back and forth to see who all can lead today and get those 5 bonus points for the rest of the season. That's almost what it looks like. Is here comes the bottom of the speedway. Lukaska, Stevenson, all down there on that yellow line. And once again, off turn number 4, Dan, we're going to have a new leader, third different leader on lap at the completion of lap number 3.
Watching in-car now with the leader down low, the 67 of Stevenson, watching him truck through this field. And like you said, Tony, lead changes all over the place as I think we might set a record here today. As they're now battling once again side by side onto the back straightaway right now. Man, Tony, I can't tell you how exciting this racing is right now. Side by side, no one really going 3 wide just yet, but still double file stacked up. Remember, no bump drafting for the first quarter of the race as everyone trying to see where they can go.
Yeah, at this point, Dan, you're just kind of testing your car out, trying to figure out what you've got, maybe if you need to make any changes. These drivers did have a little bit of extra practice. They've been on the speedway ever since about 4 o'clock this afternoon Eastern time. Green flag here at approximately 6:20 Eastern time. So nearly 2.5 hours of practice, Dan, makes for a considerable amount of track time. You should have that setup dialed in or pretty close to dialed in as we're beginning to see, Dan, 2 separate packs on the racetrack. One pack about 2 seconds behind the main pack, and that one consisting of about 10 cars or so, starting to kind of lag back and just kind of ride this one out, it looks like.
Yeah, remember, 200 laps here. A couple drivers, like you said, in the back with that second pack just kind of riding around, waiting to make their move until the race gets down to the end. This is the 6th annual Openspeedway 500, and it's absolutely an exciting place to watch here on OLR TV as the battle for the lead once again raging on, the bottom side coming. Then he moves up, and then the other guy comes in. It's just like a merry-go-round, Tony, and I bet you we're going to have about 150 lead changes before this race is over.
Yeah, it seems that way as Eric Sisk now going to take the top spot as they work off turn number 2. One car smoking in the top of the racetrack. Looks like the number 5 machine blowing up top, down the back straightaway. That is the 5 of Kaywood. It has not brought out the caution yet. Everybody so far able to get by the number 5 machine of Kaywood, but certainly not what Kaywood wanted, Dan. His night up in smoke before we are 5 laps into this 200-mile event, or 200-lap event.
Yeah, not good for the number 5 car. As you see him smoking on the track right now, he's going to bring it down pit road and take it to the attention of his crew, but I don't believe they're going to be able to fix that. Tough break for him, as we're hearing on the radios. Water temperature is going to be a problem here at Daytona for some of these drivers.
It's almost like, Dan, that maybe they left some tape on the grill or something like that, but tough break, sure, for Kaywood. Now, one thing that did do, Dan, if you look at the front pack, it has strung this field out. We did have about 25 cars there in the lead pack. Now it's down to about 15 with 2 other distinct packs behind them. So the good news is it's kind of strung things out and maybe giving everybody a chance to sit and relax for a little bit here in the early stages of the race.
Oh, definitely. I think it might relax them for a couple of minutes as they catch their breath, but then they're going to be right back up there and going back at it again as you see the drivers coming on the inside, then moving up to the outside lane, letting another guy try to lead this race. I tell you what, that 3 car looks really strong right now, Tony. He's moved up a whole lot since the start of this race, and he is now battling for the lead.
3 for Dale, Dan. 3 for Dale. 3 for Dale. Okay.
That's right.
All kidding aside. But it's always nice to come to Daytona and see the number 3 car out front, no matter who's driving it, because more often than not, it's got that exact stylized 3 that Earnhardt made so famous out of the Richard Childress Racing stables. And right now, Mike Dawson, the pilot of that number 3 machine, the Ventura Chevrolet, as he is working the bottom of the speedway and nearly had a shot there at the lead, but that just got cut off in front of him by Strip Matter and Sis. They weren't able to do anything with it, but he's looking to the bottom of the speedway. Is Dawson? Nothing there yet. Very content just to ride behind Steve Strip Matter for the moment. As Strip Matter, Dan, I think the first leader we have had that's led consecutive laps so far this evening.
Yeah, I think so, but watch out because I don't think that's going to happen for too much longer. These guys, some of the cleanest super speedway racing, Tony, that I have seen in a long time, whether it's on NASCAR 2003 or iRacing or any of the other sims out there, some of the best super speedway racing happens right here at Openspeedway.net. These guys do it for a living, and they know how to get it done. I'll be surprised if we see a caution throughout this race, even though, come down to the end, it might happen, but I would seriously think that we're going to have a bunch of green flag pit stops here come later on in the race.
More than likely, Dan, I'm inclined to agree with you because most of these guys realize this is not their first rodeo with this deal. They understand it is a 500-mile race. It takes some time to get towards lap 170, 180, 190. And anything stupid you do early on, well, guess what? There's a pretty high chance you are not going to make it to lap 200. And it seems like an eternity sometimes, Dan, but you've just got to be patient. You've got to discipline yourself. And you've got to try some things over the course of the 500 miles to know what you have towards the end, but you don't want to take any major chances while you're trying to figure out what your car has.
Yeah, definitely, Tony, and you still see side-by-side racing right here. A lot of drivers moving up to the top of the track even farther. You see almost a third groove starting to form up there. I can't tell exactly who that is, but that is that really, really lime green colored car in the back, and he is trying to make that top line work. So the excitement about ready to pick up here at Daytona, I do believe, as now the pack starts to get back together now. The drivers that fell back just a little bit after the number 5 car blew his motor, they're all back up there, and they're all ready to go, and they're all double file, just like we were for the last 11 laps. It's absolutely exciting here as they roar down the back straightaway.
Yeah, Dan, I think that lime green car you're speaking of is a 31 machine of Guy Snyder. He's up there in the black and lime green car, the Menards sponsored entry, as he is working the high side way behind him just a little bit, about 3-4 cars back on the high side of the racetrack. That's going to be another lime green-esque machine. It's the 57 of Jim Lure, and he too has been able to suck up the back bumper of the 10 machine in front of him and just kind of holding steady right now. The Harley Davidson number 92 right immediately behind him. That's Matt Durr. Durr started way in the back of the field, and right now working his way very slowly towards the front as once again the 3 machine peaks to the inside. Nothing there. Strip Matter still going to lead that bottom line into turn number 3. But one thing I have noticed, Dan, the top line is not relinquishing any ground. It's simply a battle between Sisk in the 342 up top and the number 33 machine of Strip Matter as they work their way through the tri-oval.
Yeah, Sis, very, very fast here at Daytona. Lots of drivers talking on the radio right now about how they just want to stay calm and run to the end. But there are a couple, and Tony, might I mind you, a couple, as we're watching in-car with the 743 car, that want to go to the front now, but they're being held back by these drivers. A couple of them trying to make it 3 wide, but getting blocked. So we're going to see how that works out now as you're watching the in-car. Absolutely amazing facility as we're back live now watching the field work down the back straightaway. Amazing facility, amazing drivers. Can't ask for any much better than that, Tony.
Yeah, and Dan, it seems kind of ironic. You talk about how they're being blocked. Of course, this is a wider version of the Daytona International Speedway. And, yeah, it certainly still is very hard to pass here through certain parts of the racetrack, particularly down the front straightaway and through here in the tri-oval. It's almost like it's only about 3 lanes wide. Mind you, I think you can physically fit about 4 to 5 cars side by side, but the speed you're going and what you have to do to maintain control of one of these machines, Dan, makes it very, very difficult to get through there at any more than 2 wide. 3 wide is pretty darn hairy.
Oh, man, these guys are professionals, Tony. They're professionals. 4 wide, not a problem. And look here, trying to work on the outside, down the back straightaway. And look at them go through the middle here. So it's business is picking up 14 laps in, Tony.
Certainly is. That's the number 31 machine we were just talking about a lap or two ago. Decided, hey, I'm going to go to the middle. Guy Snyder makes it work. Now, Dan, if this is lap 10 or if this is lap 190, does that move work? It looked like he was given a lot of breaks by the guys around him.
No, that move wouldn't work because there'd be about 15 other people trying to go up the middle with him, and they'd be 3 wide coming to the checkered flag, and I bet you someone would be in the grass trying to win this race, because that's how we do it here on the Super Speedway Racing, Tony. That's why it's exciting. That's why the 2-car tango is absolutely annoying and ridiculous. This is how Super Speedway restrictor plate racing was meant to be, and they're doing it great here.
And Dan, as we're looking 3 wide for the top spot, nearly 4 wide as Strip Matter nearly got into Sisk. Here goes the number 3 machine down to the bottom of the speedway into turn number 3. Mike Dawson able to finally get by Steve Stripmatter, but Stripmatter is able to slide back in line on the top of the racetrack. He will be the 2nd car on the outside line. Once again, Dan, you see a lot of give and take with these drivers early in the going. 15 laps complete of 200. We are only about, let's see, do the math here, not even 10% of the way into this one.
Yeah, now it's starting to settle down just a little bit, but I don't think the calm is going to last too much longer here, as these guys know the safest place to be is out front, but the hardest thing to do is to get there without wrecking, and I believe that's what they're going to try to do here, Tony.
Yeah, it certainly is, Dan. Again, you talk about doing things safely and trying to get to the front, but sometimes it is a challenge. I know this time last week I was in the same boat as many of these drivers, the iRacing.com Daytona 500, and yeah, it's a battle, Dan, certainly. And, of course, we mentioned how that particular sim has a much more accurately modeled version of the Speedway. The bumps in 3 and 4 are much, much more pronounced. And holy cow, is it an absolute chore to hold that car down, Dan. But, again, you've got to do it to get yourself to lap 200 no matter what sim you're running, because it in itself poses a challenge, Dan, because of the simple fact that mentally it drains you, especially a place like this, because you're able to, you see a couple guys barely sneak into the top line there, but especially this track, Dan, because you are stuck in a pack like this for so long, and 1 or 2 mistakes can end up wiping out the entire field. As the leading is beginning to change, here goes Snyder to the bottom of the speedway through the tri-oval.
Yeah, and Snyder trying to go for the lead here through the tri-oval, Tony. And I tell you what, the iRacing tracks might have the bumps accurately modeled more accurately, but you will not see this type of race on iRace at 3, 4 wide with no effort whatsoever to just drive around there. The outside line here and even up against the wall works fantastically, and that's something they need to work on. But we're here right now, and we're enjoying some great racing here, and this is why NASCAR 2003 is still a top sim out there right now, Tony, and that's why a ton of drivers still race it.
Yeah, it's certainly an argument for many people, Dan, depending on what you're looking for. The raceability of some of these speedways, yes, a little bit better than it is in the more accurately modeled places, but just gives you that much more of an appreciation for those who are able to do it and get over, or at least in this case, were able to do it at Daytona, over the bumps, over the dips, with all 4 tires off the ground at 190 miles an hour. You don't realize it till you do it yourself. It is a handful of some of these speedways, and they make it look oh so easy, either here on OLR TV or, for that matter, of course, in real life. And that second pack, Dan, way behind this opening group there, and nearly the length of the entire back straight behind at this moment.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart thing to do, Tony. Pit stops are going to be coming up here in about, I would say, about 25, 30 laps from now, possibly sooner. These guys probably trying to make deals with people. Okay, I'm going to pit with you. I'm going to pit with you. This guy's in front of me. I want to pit after him. And remember, if you're on the outside line and you want to pit, you can't just drive through cars to get down to the inside. Although I've seen it happen before, I don't think it's going to happen to here. But definitely not here at Openspeedway because these guys absolutely know what they're doing, as they're still double file and the battle for the lead rages on.
Certainly does, Dan. I've been very, very surprised. Look at Guy Snyder down there on the inside of the car leading that inside line. And we saw his move through the middle earlier. We saw his cut down on the bottom of the speedway, Dan. That car by itself has shown a lot of muscle so far. The only question is, has he maybe shown his hand way, way too soon to where everybody else might be able to make some adjustments to account for what their car's not doing that his is?
No, you just have to be in the right place at the right time. Everyone here basically running the same setup. I mean, there's one super speedway setup with a couple of adjustments that you can make here and there as you're looking at the left side of the 916. Seen that high line trying to truck by, on the outside lane right there. But no, Tony, the only problem that he's going to have later in the race, if you want to make a move like that, is that there's going to be a ton of other people trying to do the same thing. And there's going to be a roadblock, and that leads to possibly the big one.
Certainly does, Dan, and still very, very calm up front here. And one of the things that I know a lot of people are wondering is as far as rules on blocking. We have certain leagues and certain divisions that have rules on blocking, either at the opening portions of the race or towards the end of the race as the field encounters one of the lap machines on the speedway. They'll go by him here in about just a matter of seconds. But that's one of the things here at Open Speedway, Dan. Talk to us a little bit about the rules package as far as blocking and some of the other things they are or aren't allowed to do here during the race.
Well, there definitely is a yellow line rule, Tony, and you can't go below that. Open Speedway has always been a stickler for the rules, even back, 10 years ago or 9-10 years ago when I was running over there in NASCAR 2003. They were always a stickler for the rules, and they always followed them to a T. They have a great admin core, a great boss core, a great moderator core. They build their structure from the inside out. You build a great foundation with the administrators and the moderators and everyone, and then if you have a couple people on the outside that are trying to bring it down, the building will never crumble. And that's why Open Speedway is still going strong today, because they have a great group of people as they're working their way around a lap car right now. So there will be some 3 wide, but they're going to pass it up very easily. And once again, you can't bump draft within the first 50 laps. So everyone's just riding behind each other, making the moves when they come. No bump draft within the first 50 laps. Once again, no yellow line, no going below that. And basically have at it as you're watching the roof cam out of the number 3 of Mike Dawson.
And you see that Menard car right in front of him. Dan, now here's my question. If you try to pull a Denny Hamlin on the white flag lap coming to the checkered flag, what's the ruling?
Well, Tony, I guess that's up in the air, just like it is in NASCAR. No one really knows until they try to make a judgment call. But you know what? These guys at Open Speedway, they're going to make the judgment call, and they'll make it the right way.
I could say something there, but I really won't, because as yours truly has been one of those, and the downside of a certain decision by people in NASCAR, don't worry. Nothing in the racing thing, but let's just say there's certain people in the world that, yeah, they need to know that karma comes back to them. But that's a whole different story. As up front still racing continues, and Dan, it looks like people still trying to play out both lanes to see what in the world's going to happen as we have a new leader up front on the bottom of the speedway. The 67 machine up there and the 916 of Jeremy Lukaska. He is your leader. Now, crossing start finish. I believe that's the second time he has led this evening. I'm very, very intrigued, Dan, by the fact that everybody's able to shuffle around, go to the top, go to the bottom, make those passes almost seemingly at will, as Stevenson now in the 67 goes to the bottom looking for the top spot.
Right, and I think these guys are trying to set up and get to the bottom for their pit stops, Tony, because those will be coming up soon. And they do have communication. They're running TeamSpeak 3. Every single driver in this race right now on TeamSpeak, getting back and forth, knowing where each other is. And I tell you what, the biggest mover, Tony, Matt Durr, from the 31st spot up into the 12th spot, about a half a second behind these drivers, just riding around. He's gained a whole lot of spots, so watch for him. Looks like he has a really strong car.
He does. He's got a great number on the side of that thing, number 92. I'm slightly partial to it. Not because I, maybe run it on any of my race machines at all or not, but hey, it's sitting in the garage, and gotta get it ready to go here for the next couple of weeks. So thanks for reminding me, Dan. I gotta turn some wrenches in that bad boy here in the near future. But yeah, Matt has done a fantastic job. He's kept his nose clean. He's worked that high line, it seems like, almost every single lap, and he is riding up there in the number 92, right behind the 57 of Jim Lohr, the Harley-Davidson Chevrolet. Dan, seems like every time we have an OLR TV event with these guys, somewhere at some point Matt Durr makes his way into the thick of things, and here he is. We are only 25 laps completed into this one, and he is there right in the thick of it in the lead group, and he started, as you mentioned, way back in the 30-somethings.
That's right, 31st spot to be exact, making his way towards the front. And earlier, Tony, I mean, Openspeedway, they do a bunch of quirky things here with some of their drivers running out there. Did we see a Nissan car running out there earlier? Is Nissan in NASCAR now, or Openspeedway at least?
You know, Dan, I think you might very well be right that, sometimes those are the details. It's kind of hard to see. But the 67 machine, the car leading the inside line, yes, that is, in fact, a Nissan for the 67 of Stevenson. And that Nissan right now, Dan, it's got some horses underneath the hood. The NHL 11 machine working off of turn number 4, trying to maintain that top spot. Once again, he led the last time by. This time he will do the same, but things are getting a little more heated as time goes on up front.
Yeah, I'm being told that Andrew Hardcastle and Don Stevenson are both running Nissans, the only Nissans in the field right now. So look for them to possibly team up as this race wears on, as once again we're working lap number 28. Been caution-free so far, been an absolutely amazing race with a bunch of different lead changes and leaders up near the front. As you see, 2 packs now. The big front pack, about 20, 25 cars all side by side, and then you got about 10 cars in the back running single file, just waiting for that first pit stop, which should be coming up here in about 10 or 12 laps.
It is going to be coming as you watch on board the Eric Sisk machine off of his back bumper, what he would see if he were to look in the mirror. Well, except for the fact that if it was in the mirror, it'd be backwards. Now you're looking out of the front bumper of the number 93 machine of Young. And, of course, Young was your pole sitter. And, Dan, we haven't talked a whole lot about him in that Reese's machine, but here he is, third car on the inside line, working his way back to the front. Something tells me he might have learned something already at this point of the race he might be able to use a little bit later.
Yeah, I think so, Tony. These guys figuring out how fast they can suck up on the guys in front of them, how hard they can side draft, where they can and can't go, where they can put their car. This is a very, very smooth track that they're running on right now, so they can go all over the place. And I bet you the apron might even have some grip down there, and we'll have to see here in about another 170 laps how many of these guys are left and how many are going to be going for the win. 30 laps complete here in the Openspeedway.net 500, Tony. It's the 6th annual one.
Yeah, one of the cars they lapped by a minute or two ago actually getting ready to come down to pit lane. That is the number 91 machine of Sean Peck. He will be making a visit to his crew. Also, a couple other cars beginning to maybe indicate they will be coming down the pit lane. The 84 machine of Davis. He is in the lead group right now, right back towards the tail. He's indicating he may, in fact, be coming to the pit lane, this time by the Jack Daniels machine. Off of turn number 4. Let's see if he, in fact, does peel out. He does not, so it looks like maybe Davis possibly trying to play a little bit of strategy at this point, not pitting, as he indicated he, in fact, would, Dan.
Yeah, a lot of mind games going on right now, Tony, and this is too early, I believe, for these guys to pit on their pit strategy. They're gonna start working it backwards like you do in the road course pit stops. Maybe you can explain that a little better to the viewers. Working backwards to try to get to the end on the least amount of pit stops, and I believe that's what they're gonna try to do.
Yeah, Dan, it's pretty simple. Instead of pitting whenever you feel it's necessary, you already have your pit strategy figured out. You figure out, okay, let's just say we can go 30 laps on fuel, okay, or tires, or whatever you determine that your limiting factor is. So you'll say 30 laps back from the end of the race is lap 170, then lap 140, 110, 80, lap 50, and then lap 20. So you'll make your first stop on lap 20, knowing that if you pit every 30 laps, you can go directly to the end of the race. But sometimes, Dan, in a speedway race, that can come back to bite you because of the fact you have the big ones, and the main thing is you can lose a lap on a pit stop, and that throws it all out the window. Whereas in road course racing, you can generally make a stop without losing a lap, Dan, and in that case, the caution is usually your best friend.
Yeah, definitely, Tony. And these guys are going to have a decision to make on whether they're going to take tires or not. If they do take tires and the partner that they pit with for drafting help doesn't, you're going to lose about 7 or 8 seconds there, and that is big time. So they're going to want to be concise on what they do, and they're not going to lose a lap if they pit and don't take tires and just fuel. But if they're going to put a full tank in, you might see a couple drivers with 2 tire stops only, and they have to get out and they have to have a draft. I would look for a big group to be be pitting here, in about 6 laps.
I would certainly agree with you there, Dan. Pit stop should be coming up here in the near future. I want to make a note for anybody who is a Sean Peck fan. Peck, the number 91 machine, he has now officially retired from the event. He is joining the number 5 machine of Kaywood back in the garage. Kaywood, the first car out of the race with what officially is being listed, Dan, as a malfunctioning clutch on the Kaywood Chevrolet. It's certainly a tough break for him. Again, 6 laps into the race, and apparently, Dan, somebody must have left something loose on the number 5 machine, but I think we may have established, Dan, some sort of communication down in the pit area to Sean Peck, who, unfortunately, his day has been shortened up.
Yeah, Sean, tough break for you here, buddy. What exactly happened with your car there?
Connection issue. I race in leagues all the time and never have connection issues.
So you weren't able to get back in, or?
Well, I can get back in. I want to be in the middle of a pack and lag out like that. And it isn't good for anybody else.
Well, Sean, we definitely appreciate you taking care of everyone else here tonight. Better luck next time, and stick around and watch some of this amazing racing, huh?
Thanks, guys. It sounds great. And
all right.
Good luck.
Thanks, Sean. Tough break for him, Tony.
Certainly is, Dan, as now our leaders begin to indicate they are coming to pit lane, this time by strip matter, indicating he will be coming to the pit lane. The 388 machine indicating he will be coming to the pit lane as well. Now, he is way, way, way back, Dan, in that second pack. Strip matter right now. He, too, I believe, actually, well, I'm losing track of where he's at in the standings, but he was up near the front of the field. Right now, he is being shown, yeah, there he is. I'm completely blind. In the 6th spot. So he should be coming to pit lane momentarily, as here come a couple of drivers. Looks like nobody coming to pit lane, Dan, because yellow on the speedway.
Yellow flag is out. It seems like the 12 machine possibly involved in a wreck right there. We're going to pull up a replay for you here just momentarily, Tony. I didn't see that. It didn't happen in the front pack.
Yeah, Dan, it looks like it was actually the second pack. The 12 machine of Melillo went into turn number 3 at the 008. I guess Melillo backed off for whatever reason, for I guess a spin actually in front of him. So he was collected. The 388 was collected. And Matt, it looks like a case of somebody trying to pit a little too early possibly.
Yeah, a lot of these guys looks like they were jockeying for a position back here, and he's right behind the 6. You see some smoke up ahead, and 12 slows. 006 gets into him, and a couple other cars, the 388, they're going to get into it, and a couple more cars get a piece of this. A multi-car, I wouldn't say this is the big one, but for some of these guys, it's going to feel like the big one. Is they get some pretty good damage out of this. The 12 car looks a little rounded off on all 4 sides right now, so multiple cars involved. 35, a Goodstein, Burns out there, and Brad Cox also having some trouble. So, well, works out good for the leaders. Now they don't have to make green flag pit stops.
Very true. They do not, Matt. And Dan, it was almost like the truck race, except there's no Donnie Neuenberger here, but it was the second pack that, strangely enough, ended up getting caught up in a wreck that they were trying to avoid.
Yeah, definitely. It just didn't slow down quick enough and ran into the back of the 12, and it was on from there, Tony. And I do believe pit stops are underway as all the leaders make their way down pit road.
That they do, Dan, as you watch Lukaska and others come down to the attention of their crews. Most likely under caution, it will be 4 tires and a full tank of Sunoco race fuel. We will find out if that in fact is the case. We do see right sides up, almost everybody on pit lane, but it looks like 2 tires for Lukaska. He will be down and away. 2 tires for a number of guys behind him. Your pole sitter Young taking 4. So an entire mix as we have contact on pit road between the 10 and the 283 machines there near the front of the pit lane. But Dan, 2 different pit strategies. 2 tires versus 4 here on this round of pit stops.
Definitely, and this is going to be the testing factor right here to see how that works out. I do believe the 2 tires is definitely the way to go, Tony, as there was contact coming out of pit road. Didn't look too heavy, but then again, this is a super speedway, and it could possibly be hurtful for those drivers.
Well, with that, we will regroup the field, let everybody reset their positions. We're going to take a break here on OLR TV. Don't go away. You're watching the Openspeedway 500 live from Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida.
going to get freight train one way or another, unless he makes that thing as wide as a double-wide mobile home. Mario's making a move up to the middle. 3 wide, you're in the middle. Hey, Sam, one more time. Right flag, you're the man.
What do you have your hands on? That's right, I'm talking to you. Look down. What do you have your hands on? No, not that. I'm talking about your steering wheel. Are you using the only steering wheel used and endorsed by Dale Earnhardt Jr., the Sierra testing team, and of course, the OnlineRacing.com staff? Well, if you didn't get it from Thomas, you're not using the wheel. Thomas Enterprises, the absolute best racing wheels on the market. If you're not using a Thomas, you're not in control. Tired of playing games? You want to live competition? Well, the all-new OnlineRacing.com brings you the absolute best of sim racing. Everybody knows we have the fastest and most stable dedicated server. But did you know that now we have the easiest software to set up your own races, chat with your buddies? Oh yeah, and remember that Java and that pesky redirector? They're gone, baby. No more of that. We still have our popular games like NASCAR 3, NASCAR Heat, NASCAR 4, NASCAR 2002, and of course, NASCAR Racing 2003. But why are we different? Well, maybe it's the car file showroom, or the setup exchange, or is it the voice chat? Heck, the list goes on and... oh yeah. I'm talking about the absolute best sim racers on the planet to race against. Sure, you can sit at home and race against the computer, but what fun is that? Prove you're the best, race against the best at OnlineRacing.com. But that's just a glimpse of what you'll find on OLR. Come on over and find out why we say OnlineRacing.com. Don't dream it, live it.
And welcome back to Daytona International Speedway here in Daytona Beach, Florida. Haven't really missed a whole lot of anything except a couple of caution laps. That's where we're at in this one as we are just past the 30 lap mark here. Actually, check that. I shouldn't say just past it. We've been past it. 38 laps complete here at Daytona, right at 1/5 distance, or pretty darn close to it, nearly 100 miles in the books of this one. The 500-mile Openspeedway 500. And Jeremy Lukaska won the race off the pit lane. We saw that right before we went to break. Don Stevenson running in the second spot. Guy Snyder third. Kyle Young in fourth. Tim Williamson fifth. Jim Lohr, Matt Durr is up to seventh. Mike Dawson back to eighth. MJ Davis ninth. And Eric Sisk right now running in the 10th spot. Recap the rest of the field for you while we have a quick minute or two here. Of course, the OLR TV player window has the current running order there if you'd like to keep track of your favorite driver. Rod Lease currently running in the 11th spot. The 500 of Smith is 12th. Steve Strittmatter 13th. Tom Sylvain 14th. Joe Gibson 15th. Stoddard 16th. Brad Adams is 17th. Tim Walton 18th. Kent Conley 19th. And Rick Speed currently in the 20th position. The 218 of Wright is in the 21st spot. Goodstein is 22nd. Carver 23rd. Hewitt 24th. Bloomdahl is running in 25th. Brad Cox currently being scored in the 26th spot. He was involved in that most recent caution. He was the car that got punted down onto the grass and came back up in front of traffic. Hardcastle after that pit road contact was 27th. Kevin McAdams was the last car to pit. He is being shown in 28th. Kyle Short 29th, Becker 30th, Burns in 31st, and Justin Melillo being shown the 32nd spot on the lead lap, but the last car running on the speedway. 2 cars out of the race, those of Sean Peck and the 5 of Kaywood, as the pace car works off of turn number 4 down the short straightaway here at Daytona. Pace car making that left-hand turn. Dan Lyon, we are getting ready to go racing once again here at Daytona.
About ready to go racing here once again, Tony, and the green flag flies, and we are back underway. Single file starts here. That's a new thing that a lot of people might not notice.
Whoa!
Everybody's single file.
One car, it looked like the 388, Dan, way back in the field, came driving through the grass in the tri-oval. I don't know what the deal was there, but Brad Cox, it's like, I would say the throttle stuck, but it's Daytona. That would almost be a good thing. Came driving through the grass on the apron, and now he is back to the tail of the field. Matt, you might want to cue up a replay of that one, but major issue for Brad Cox. Apparently, Dan, he liked the grass too much in the back straightaway and decided he wanted to try it out on the front straightaway as well.
Yeah, definitely some problem right there. We're going to try to cue up a replay and see exactly what happened as we are 1/5 of the way in here at Daytona International Speedway. And watch that 92 of Matt Durr to work his way up to the field, Tony. He's making the move on the outside.
He is, and I think Matt's going to cue up what happened on the restart, the 388 machine of Brad Cox. Again, very odd incident there, and I think some of that helped to separate the field, as did the single file restart. As this field already separating itself, there is a lead pack of about 10, 11 cars, then another 5, 6 cars, another 5 cars or so. And Matt, show us what happened right on that restart there in the tri-oval.
It's called the accordion effect, Tony, and we see multiple cars getting together down here. The 388 kind of goes low to avoid. Then he gets on the brakes, not to get a black flag. I'm not sure if he made it before the start-finish lining up. But all these guys jockeying back there, and it's that rubber band effect. Guys trying to get up a couple spots here on the restart. It's not worth it, guys. You're either going to smash in your front end, get wrecked, something's going to happen. It's not worth it to gain one spot on a restart.
Especially, Matt, on lap 40 of a 200-lap, 500-mile race here at Daytona. Cox now by himself without a drafting partner back in the 30th spot. So those couple of spots from either him or somebody else certainly did not work to his advantage, Dan.
Definitely not, and I just think that's a combination of people going and not going, and the single file restarts. That's why the double file restarts, I think, are definitely the better thing to do. But here, single file and the accordion effect, like Matt was saying, is just that much longer. But once again, back up front, still double file, Tony, as we now have 2 distinct lines working for that lead.
And what was that second pack has now caught up to this group of cars. It almost seems like, Dan, if you've got two rows of cars, they punch such a big hole in the air that anybody within about a second or a second and a half behind them, if they're anything close to hooked up, they in fact can draft up on that group of cars. They are able to suck up phenomenally with these machines, and that's what we've seen so far. What was an 11-car pack now has turned into approximately 15 as they work off turn number 2.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And down the back straightaway right here, double file. You see a couple stragglers in the back, but you know what? They're going to have their chance to get back up there as well. As Tony, it's heating up in that 3-car. I keep seeing him up there. Mike Dawson, he's only led 1 lap so far, but every time there's a camera shot, that 3-car is the first one that sticks out, and he is just lurking right there on the inside of row number 2, getting ready to take that lead when he gets the chance to do it. Thank you.
Talk much today, Dan? I think
no, not really.
Your tongue maybe is a little tied up. Don't worry. I spent my entire afternoon working on a super late model, so I got a little greasy and dirty and everything else, and it's been one of those days. But yeah, you're exactly right, Dan. All you've got to do is be in a position to win, and that right now I think is what Dawson is trying to do, running there in about the 3rd or 4th spot, 2nd car on the inside line. And you mentioned he's been there all day long. Mind you, we're only 44 laps into this one, but he has been there. He hasn't really been to the back of the field. He hasn't been to the back of this pack even, just right around the first couple of cars. And if he can stay there for this entire race, Dan, come the end of the race, he is in excellent position to begin making moves. And he's got fewer cars to dispose of if he, in fact, wants to lead the race and end up winning it.
Oh, definitely, and I believe so. And remember, lap number 50, that's when the no holds barred, have at it, boys, rule comes off and goes into effect, and you are allowed to bump draft after lap number 50. So look for some drivers to latch onto the back bumper of their teammate in front of them, possibly push them around the outside up against the wall, Harry Gant style, to take the lead here. So about 5 or 6 more laps, and the rules are starting to get relaxed a little bit, and we're going to see some exciting racing. This is exciting right here, but just wait for the next couple of laps.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, okay, let's just ride so we can get there, and then we're going to start trying stuff. We're going to see how much of an effect a bump draft has. How long can we maybe stay attached to the guy in front of me? Whatever the case might be. And Dan, I know you said you don't like it, but you got to try it. You got to try to push your teammate all the way, or whoever's in front of you, all the way around the racetrack, because that is, in fact, the fastest way around these racetracks. We have proven it in the iRacing sim. I've we know bump drafting works here. We never tried to push anybody all the way around the racetrack, but it simply works. You've got two motors essentially powering one car.
That's right. Looking out of the rear bumper of the 31, back to the 57, and now we're back live. That was Jim Lohr and Guy Snyder IV. These drivers know how to get it done and know how to do it. And Tony, I'm always a fan of bump drafting. If it can make the racing exciting, that's what I want. As a fan, as a spectator, I want to see 3-wide. I want to see 4-wide racing. I want to see cars coming to the checkered flag and driving into the grass to try to pass everyone. This politically correct stuff that, and I'm not pointing anyone out, I'm not talking about Openspeedway or anybody else. I'm saying in general, this politically correct stuff like no 3-wide, no low lining, no blocking, no passing below yellow. No, I say get rid of it all and let the drivers have a good time and let it be good for the fans. And this is what they're doing here tonight. They're going to turn the guys loose and see what happens.
Yeah, certainly, Dan, I agree. And especially as a parts person, I love it when those cars get crashed because it means cha-ching, cha-ching, I have job security. Okay, maybe that's a little not effective
That's
here.
pushing it there.
Yeah, you're exactly right, though, Dan. It makes a better show, and race drivers are just that, race drivers. They find ways to go faster. They find ways to get by the guy in front of them. You start putting all these rules on them, and it's just like, well, what do I do? I'll just crash the guy, and, well, now pass him that way. I can't pass him any other way legally.
Right, and I absolutely agree with you and understand you. They needed a track when NASCAR 2003 first came out. The High Line was horrible. Didn't work. Brian Ring and a couple other guys got together and they said, hey, we're going to give the High Line. Now the High Line works. And then the other guys, the TR, I can't remember what TR stands for. I'm sure there's someone in the speed chat that could let me know what the TR means. But this is based off of that.
Oh,
it's a mod.
There goes the number 93 car of Young. He got booted. It looked like a warp boot, Dan. Somehow, only a single car incident over in turn number 3. The Reese's machine went around as caution is on the speedway. Kyle Young, your pole sitter, goes for a ride over in turns 3 and 4. And Dan, once again, it looked just like it was a warp incident. Tough break for him, as I'm sure Matt Thomas will get that one queued up for just a moment. But luckily, nobody else involved in that one.
Right, and I'm telling you how these drivers are going to run harder and run faster, and we're talking about how cool the tracks are, and then bam, someone's in the wall. So maybe we just shouldn't talk anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly what the case is, but Young making his way down the attention of his crew, and I think, Matt Thomas, you have fired up the replay machine to figure out what exactly happened.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the 93. He was running right there second, and they were kind of getting hung up high, but I think he was trying to get back down. Nope. And he was just kind of hung out. Wow, that was kind of a warp accident. Glad they got the different core INI file in here to help with that. And then 93 pulls it down into the grass, and still just a little bit of warp, and Reese's might be a little bit crunchy down there now, Tony.
I think they very well might be, and I'm not a very big fan of crunchy peanut butter. I like it nice and smooth. In fact, yours truly has a whole stack of peanut butter sandwiches for the going here this evening as the cars come down by the pit entrance, and it looks like we may in fact see pit stops once again, Dan. Everybody taking the opportunity to come down to at least, if nothing else, top off the fuel cell with a couple more gallons of Sunoco race fuel. Everyone, with the exception of about 3 cars, heading to the attention of their crews.
Yeah, and I tell you what, Tony, this is a good move right here because you want to stay on sequence for the first part of the race and then get off sequence at the end of the race and try to do something different. And I think these guys, most of them, are probably just going to take gas and go as you're looking at the 916, and that's exactly what he does. And watching the other guys on there as well, most of them are gas and go. I see a couple of 2-tire and a couple 4-tire stops in the back. So it's going to swing this series around, swing this race around as far as the pit stops go. As you see the 92 making a couple moves through the pit stops. Tony, it's easier to pass them on pit road than it is on the racetrack.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's a lot easier to pass somebody whenever they are standing still than it is whenever they are moving.
Oh, I agree. And you can't draft on pit road. A couple people that like to try, but that doesn't work. Pass them on pit road. I think, a second in your pit stall is worth like 100 yards on the track or something like that. Someone with great calculator skills like Joe Baugh or someone came up with that.
That's going back a ways there, Dan. But yeah, it's worth about a football field on the racetrack at 200 miles an hour, and that is a pretty substantial amount of time. I mean, you figure 1 second. There's only 45 of those around the racetrack. You know, if you're running a 45, 46-second lap, Dan, as we are now passing 1/4 distance when we cross the line this time by. But 100 yards, Dan, that is a long time, or a long distance, I should say, and to be covering that amount of space in 1 second. That's hauling the mail.
Yeah, that's a football field right there, isn't it, Tony? Yeah, it's a football field.
Yeah, that is in fact a football field, Dan. If you go from goal line to goal line, if you want to do a full football field, it's 120 yards, which is probably about 240 or so.
I believe so. I believe so. Just kind of throw it out there to get these guys that are watching out there. Maybe that don't know. Maybe they can imagine a football field on the racetrack. You want to try to talk to somebody? Let's talk to somebody.
We're gonna see if maybe we can get a hold of a couple of these guys while between their strategy sessions, if you will, as they try to work their way around the speedway. Now past 1/4 distance, 125 miles in the books here in the Openspeedway 500. We've got a hold of your leader, the number 916 of Jeremy Lukaska, and Jeremy, you are out front of the Openspeedway 500. Plan to stay here for the rest of the night?
Yeah, it's been a great race. I've had a lot of fun, stayed up front a lot, and being up front so much, I haven't seen much of what's happened. But I mean, I'm
you don't
guessing
want to
it's
see
an
it,
exciting
Jeremy.
race.
I don't think you want to see what's going on behind you, Jeremy. Actually, it's pretty calm right now. But now that we're past that lap 50 mark, how does that change your strategy? How does that change the race from how you looked at it, being that now the rules have opened up a little bit and everybody behind you is able to do a little bit more with their cars than they were the first 50 laps?
Well, I certainly see some wrecks happening with bump drafting be open now, but otherwise I'm not real sure because it's really tough to say, to be honest with you. I just see wrecks happening by bad bumps, and I guess that's all I can really say.
Well, before we let you go, Jeremy, I know you've got a long 200 or 375 miles still ahead of you. Yeah, I'm sure you didn't want to hear that. It's a long night still to go. But nonetheless, you've got people in that car, I'm sure, that are proud to be having a little bit of TV time here on OLR TV, and now's your chance to give them a shout-out and a thank you in case everything were to go awry in the next 2 laps.
Yeah, really quick, I just want to thank my sister. She's watching this race up in Minnesota. Hi, Christy. And just everyone here at Openspeedway that put this race on, and you guys for broadcasting it. Can't thank you guys enough.
We certainly appreciate it, Jeremy. Now, tell us about this uvu.com that's on the hood of your car. What is it, and how did they get there? I mean, give us a story with that one.
Well, uvu is a program a lot like Skype. It's where you can webcam with people online and talk to them, except unlike Skype, you can do it up to 6 people at once, I believe. And something different I wanted to do was putting people's names on the car. So there are 37 names of people on this car, some of which are my family, other racers here, their family, people that are special to them. And it's just something different I wanted to do that I don't think anybody's ever done before.
Well, you certainly have done it, as now you're working off turn number 2 with the lights off on the pace car. Jeremy, best of luck to you. Hopefully we're still talking to you at lap number 200.
All right, thank you. And if nobody makes this an exciting show, I can guarantee you guys I will. Thank you.
Ooh, maybe a little bit of foreshadowing on the part of Jeremy Lukaska, Dan. It's always fun when you have a driver saying, hey, if it doesn't get exciting, I'll be sure to make it exciting.
Right, and remember I was saying someone that might go through the grass to win this race? I'm holding Jeremy to that.
I would give good money to do that. In fact, actually, hey, I bribed an official at our hockey game the other night, $20 to toss everybody out of on the teams, or at least enough to end the game prematurely. He didn't, but I offered.
Well, you got to do what you got to do to win, Tony, and we all know how much you're horrible at hockey, so you got to get an advantage.
Well, I don't know if I'm horrible, Dan, being I scored a hat trick on Tuesday night's game. It was a 7-2 win over the opposing team, who we're usually a pretty close game with. nonetheless, I was scorekeeping Thursday night when I made that bribe, not playing. Once again, I'm your host, Tony Stevens, here at the Daytona International Speedway, joined alongside by Dan Lyon, and in the OLRTV.com production truck, Matt Racing Kid Thomas, as Jeremy Lukaska, Guy Snyder,